and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is Open Mic. Now, what is Open Mic? Well, I'm glad that you asked. See, every day, Monday through Friday on the John Campea Show, we take a little bit of time at the end of the show to take live questions. But here on the weekends on Open Mic, that's all we do. We just talk about the things you guys want to talk about. And that's what we're going to do here today. And listen, man, there's no dipping and diving or getting around it. It's crazy what's going on in the world right now. It is crazy of what's going on in the world right now. We've been talking about movies getting canceled left, right, and center. Actually, one of the things we're going to talk about here today, we'll talk a little bit about this right now, I suppose, is that now it's even affecting, we already knew it was affecting television, but now it's affecting television a little bit closer to home, including Netflix. Netflix is now getting affected as we have found out that Stranger Things Season 4 has been halted. Production on Stranger Things Season 4, they have been hard at work making that sure. Stranger Things Season 4 production has been halted. On top of that, just about every piece of live action drama that they do has been put on hold. So now even Netflix is feeling the repercussions of it. As a matter of fact, even just a short time ago, let me see if I can find and pull this up for you guys here. Just a short time ago, it looked like the filming of Jurassic World has also been halted. So Universal put out a statement regarding Jurassic World saying, Universal Pictures live action feature productions, including Jurassic World, will ramp down and go on hiatus beginning this weekend. The studio continues to monitor the situation closely and will make a determination on when to restart production in the coming weeks. So we are seeing a lot of things being affected at this point. And now let me say this right up front, just so I don't have to mention it again later on, because I feel like this is important to state and say at the beginning of all our shows the last little while, and probably for the next little while to come. I understand that the consequences and what's happening with coronavirus to a lot of people around the world. To some people, it's incredible hardship and suffering. And I mentioned this in another video the other day, even to the rest of us who, in the best of situations, it's become an incredible pain in the ass. And I am not saying at all that the biggest deal with the coronavirus is how it affects our precious little entertainment industry. Not at all. However, and I want to make this disclaimer at the front here, because I'm sure issues about the pandemic and everything are going to come up and be a part. I want to make it very, very clear that when we're talking about how this thing affects the movies that we watch, when we're talking about how this thing is affecting the television that we watch or the entertainment we enjoy and the content we like to consume, I am in no way, shape, or form suggesting that these are the worst things in the world. I'm in no way, shape, or form saying this is the big problem with the virus going around. Not at all. I'm acknowledging right up front there are much, much bigger issues of the world. However, this particular show is about the entertainment world. This particular show is about the movies that we watch and about the TV shows that we watch and about the content we like to consume. That is the parameters of what this show is about. So when we talk about big issues like this, it's my job to talk about them in the confinement of the entertainment industry, the movies, the TV show. There are a lot of other people out there talking about the bigger and quite frankly more important ramifications of what's going on, but I leave that to them. Here, the parameters of what we talked about was in entertainment, and so we discuss how it is within entertainment, and you should not confuse that with me suggesting that this is the biggest problem with the coronavirus or this is the biggest problem in the world. So now that I've laid out that little disclaimer, hopefully you'll take what we're going to be talking about here in stride. So, of course, we already talked about the other day how Quiet Place 2 got delayed. Its release. That really sucked for me personally because that was my most anticipated film of the year. But Rob had already had his most anticipated film of the year, James Bond, get pushed and delayed. And now Fast 9's been pushed off to next year. Mulan has now officially been pushed off. I assume we're going to hear about more titles getting moved. We talked about how movie theaters, I mentioned this in a special video yesterday. You can find it up on the YouTube channel. Regal and AMC theaters have instituted new rules to cap capacity in any one of their theaters to 50% to ensure that if you want to have space between you and other people in theaters, you can. It's a common sense move, so I appreciated that. So a lot of stuff going on here, guys. A lot of stuff. And I think what's really neat is with the Stranger Things situation is a lot of people have been thinking, well, okay, can't go to the movie theaters, but that's all right. I got my streaming. But the streaming is going to get affected. But here's the interesting thing about the streaming stuff getting affected. Let's say 3 or 4 months down the road, once this crisis is all behind us, that I think is when you're going to really start to feel the effects of television getting impacted. Like, we feel the effects of the movies getting impacted right now, because I was supposed to go see Mulan this week. We were supposed to be going to see James Bond pretty quick. We were supposed to be going to see Fast 9 fairly soon. So we're feeling the impact of how it affects the movie side immediately. However, we're not going to really feel the impact on the television side until months and months and months down the line. Because, Stranger Things wasn't supposed to come out this week. The episodes of Supernatural that they're working on right now that have been halted, my show Supernatural just got halted too. We weren't going to see these episodes for a couple of months. So we're feeling the impact of the movie stuff now. We'll feel the impact of the television stuff a little bit later. So it's a complicated situation, all this kind of stuff. But those of us who understand the importance and the value of stories, of what these types of industries and these types of things do and how they benefit us and all that kind of stuff, we're going to continue to talk about it because that's what we do. Anyway, guys, you guys have a whole bunch of questions sent in and lined up, so let's not waste any more time and let's jump over and start getting to them. The first one we got to start getting caught up on is Tony Curran, who writes, "Hey, John and gang. As speculated a few weeks ago, the new Batman movie is currently shooting in my hometown of Liverpool, UK. That is true. The location, St. George Hall, was used as the New York City Town Hall in Fantastic Beasts and the Nazi bonfire book scene in The Last Crusade." That's interesting, because there are certain locations that have been multi-purposed around the world to be used in several iconic shots. But that's very cool. St. George Hall was in Fantastic Beasts and the book fire scene in Last Crusade. One of my favorite scenes, by the way, in all of the Indiana Jones movies, when we finally see Indiana Jones come face to face with Hitler, gets him to autograph his book. Hilarious scene. So yes, there was news coming out a while ago that there was shooting going on in Liverpool. There was speculation about Batman shooting there. I said at the time, listen, there's no reason to believe it is Batman. They could eventually go there, but right now there's no reason to believe that location is for Batman. Turns out it is. That's why we never say never, guys, because even if it doesn't look like it is, it could be. And that's what the situation turned out to be. They are shooting in Liverpool. That was all attached to the possibility of Dick Grayson being in there. And go back and watch that episode. We'll go into that. We won't go into all that again. But that's really cool when you get those locations that can be multiply used for multiple different movies, and that's pretty cool. Okay. 50 Shades of Geek writes, "I think we need a code name for the virus to avoid talking about. How about Corellia? It sounds close enough, and as a plan in Star Wars, it's easy to remember. You know what? I just gave up on it, because for a while I was trying to do the show without even saying the name coronavirus, because every time I would do a video where coronavirus got mentioned or was part of a topic or whatever, YouTube would demonetize my videos. And I thought, So I started just going on with it and just not saying coronavirus. I say, the situation or blah, 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 blah. Everybody knew what I was talking about. But then I just gave up on it the other day. I said, whatever, we're just going to do it. And to YouTube's credit, they have not demonetized my videos since. And I think they just decided to stop demonetizing videos. And you know what? Here's the thing. I don't blame YouTube harshly for that. Because think about it. If you're an advertiser on YouTube, all right, think about this for a second. Let's say you're advertising, your name is Wally, and you're advertising Wally's Teal Plastic Cups. That's your product. Wally's Teal Plastic Cups. By the way, thank you, Wally. I appreciate your plastic cups. And you're advertising Wally's Teal Plastic Cups. And now you become an advertiser on YouTube. Well, because you're a family-friendly brand, you don't want your ads showing on like adult-themed stuff. That's understandable, because you don't want your product to be identified with adult themes. So that's understandable. And what product out there wants the name of their product and their brand being associated with the virus? What like if you're selling, we sell these beautiful stuffed toys for children. Do you want your commercial running on a coronavirus video? And then, subconsciously becoming people associate your product with coronavirus. I mean, I understand. I do. I get it. But it was nice to see that I started talking a little bit more openly about it a little while ago, and YouTube did not indeed start demonetizing my videos like they had previously. So thank you to YouTube for that. That was very nice of them. All right. Jeremy Tashabu writes, "Love the show. Did you like the Soul trailer?" I did like the Soul trailer. Look, I didn't love it, but I'll tell you this. The movie looks like it's going to be a more existential crisis kind of movie than anything we've come to expect from Disney or Pixar. So a lot of people are very much looking forward to that, and I am too. Even though I don't think the trailer is the greatest thing in the world, I did think it's suggesting to us a deeper level kind of Pixar movie than we're probably used to seeing, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's see here. Where are we at? Ben Rayner writes, hi, John, Rob, and Aaron. These were one of the last questions that came in yesterday before we ended the show. Hi, John, Rob, and Aaron. I love Back to the Future. It's one of my favorite movies, and I agree with John. A remake is fine. A continuation is fine with me. Make Tom Holland Marty's grandson or something. But either way, I'm fine with it. And it doesn't need to be Tom. I don't think you're going to see a continuation. I do think in the next 5 years, you're going to hear that a Back to the Future remake is happening. And I'm perfectly fine with that. I think everybody should be perfectly fine with a remake of anything. That's my philosophy. Because if the movie sucks, oh well, it sucks. It doesn't hurt the original. Some people try to argue, if a remake comes out, it damages the reputation of the original. That has never happened. That has never happened. As a matter of fact, all the studies show that when a remake of a classic movie comes out, well, not even necessarily classic, but when a remake of a movie comes out, studies have shown interest in the original movie spikes. Sales of the original movie spikes. Rentals or streaming of the original movie spikes. Searches on social media for the original movie spike. So there's really no downside. A terrible remake never hurts the reputation of the original. It just doesn't happen. So that's why I'm okay with it. But I really do I don't believe you're going to see a continuation, like the next chapter in the Back to the Future saga. I think what you will see is in the next 5 years, you're going to see them do a remake. Now, whether the remake is good or great or terrible and awful, who knows? But I do think in the next 5 years, we're going to see that. All right, Raymond Verrata writes, here's my donation for the coronavirus preparation. Do you have a bunker to broadcast the John Campea Show from just in case of a lockdown? Well, my bunker is the place that my home that me and Ann rent here in Burbank. We've got a place in Burbank, and we're kind of shuffled away, so we're good. We're good, but thank you for asking. Although, it's interesting. Starting on Monday, Ann's going to be working from home, which is great for me. I love having Ann around the house. But Ann is going to start working from home on Monday. Hasbro has instituted that starting Monday, all their employees are going to work from home for at least 2 weeks. For 2 weeks. So Ann's going to be home for a couple of weeks. So we're going to bunker down here. All right. Scott Brown writes, how do you think the movie industry will handle the movie market being flooded from all these release dates being pushed to later this year and into next year? I think it all depends on how long this thing draws out. Let's be optimistic for a second. Let's say that 3 weeks from now, the major part of the crisis is behind us. All right. That's best case scenario, but let's just go with that for a second. If in best case scenario, a couple of weeks from now, say 3 weeks from now, the worst is behind us, then really it's not going to be that difficult to reintegrate any of the movies that got pushed back. Just spread it out a little bit and just put them back into the release schedule. It's really not going to, I don't believe, that jarring. It's going to be one extra movie every 2 or 3 weeks over the course of 12 months, right? It's not going to be that bad. We'll barely notice it. We'll barely notice it. However, if this thing stretches, say, like 3 months, which, I don't think that's going to happen, but I'm just saying, let's go worst case scenario. Let's say this thing stretches out 3 months. Well, that becomes a little bit more problematic about taking the sheer number of films that maybe have been withheld and now trying to integrate them back into a release schedule that has suddenly become really crowded. Personally, I think it's going to be somewhere in between. I think we're going to notice over the next year more movies than normal coming out week to week a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be that noticeable. So anyway, but it's a little early. Let's see how this all starts to transpire. All right. Finding Neo writes, if the Fed bailed out corrupt Wall Street, do you think we should bail out Main Street after this? If it goes too long and ultimately is government fault? You're talking about stuff, Finding Neo, that's way outside the purview of my show. I mean, you're talking about stuff that is way outside the purview of my show or my expertise. You're talking about stuff that, like, I am not a global economics expert. And so for me to give, since I have no advanced education in global economics and things like that, I would just be giving you a limited, uninformed, wild speculation, pull an opinion out of my ass answer. And I think important questions like that deserve better answers than that. So yeah, I can't give an answer, man, because it's way outside of my purview and it's too important of a topic for me to just give some pull out of my ass answer. So I just want to acknowledge that and say, I appreciate you asking, but that's really not, I'm not the guy to answer that question. That's about it. All right. Thanks a lot for sending in a question anyway. Ned Schnebley writes, "Hi, John and friends. School of Rock has been one of my favorite musicals since I was a kid, and my friends in high school thought I looked like Jack Black's roommate, Ned Schnebley. What's your opinion of the movie? Stick it to the man. Stick it to the man. Bring on the filthy." I like the movie. It was never. Here's the funny thing. We all have a bunch of movies that are super beloved by a lot of people, and we like, but we don't hold it on that level. And School of Rock is one of those to me. It's a movie I like. I like School of Rock. I don't personally have it on that high of a pedestal that a lot of my friends do, and clearly you do. But I did enjoy the movie. And the kids were great. And did you see on YouTube, there was a video that went around where all the kids who are now much, much bigger did like a little reunion with Jack Black at some club, and they were like playing. It was pretty cool to see. It's on YouTube. You can find it if you look for it. I have a bad taste in my mouth of School of Rock right now, though. See, my wife, she gets a season pass to the Pantages, theater in Los Angeles. That's where they do all the Broadway shows, right? So my wife got a season's pass for that because she got the whole season pass because it was the only way she could guarantee to get tickets for Hamilton. But it does mean like every month or month and a half, she gets to go there and see a new musical. And I went with her one night to go see School of Rock, the musical stage play. It was awful. It was terrible. So I've been walking around with this bad School of Rock taste in my mouth, and it's not the movie's fault at all because I like the movie, but it was the musical. It was too bad, which is really too bad because it's the only musical I've gone to see there that I didn't really like. I loved Hamilton. Waitress was amazing. Might be the best one that I saw there. Their Aladdin show was pretty decent. But Anna's gone to see about 10 or 15, maybe. The School of Rock one was terribly, unfortunately bad. All right. Super Captain Saiyan writes, "I'm watching Black Widow in IMAX. Screw the Corona." Hey, yeah, and if it gets its release, which right now Black Widow is still on the release schedule, they have limited the amount of seats. That means they've reduced any risk you might have of catching something. I'm not saying it's a good idea or a bad idea to go to the movies. That's up to every individual person to make that decision for themselves. Understand what the risks are. Understand what might mitigate the risks. Understand, all that kind of stuff. As long as you educate yourself, if you still want to go to the movie theaters, good for you. Again, though, I think the one thing that might get in your way is that Black Widow might get pushed. It's still on the release schedule right now, but let's see what happens. All right. Super Steel 75 writes, Hi there, guys. What do you guys think now that all these movies have been canceled? Movies like Bloodshot have got a chance to make more money as there's nothing on the horizon to intrigue moviegoers. Well, yeah, so we got Bloodshot in theaters, but it's not on its own. It's also up against The Hunt, which I know there's some interest in. I was disappointed with The Hunt. You guys know I was really looking forward to The Hunt. I was looking forward to it. I was excited about it. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I'm not even sure it's all right. It's a little poor. It was just a little bit too on the nose, but my review is up on the YouTube channel. You can go find that there. It's a two-sided coin with Bloodshot. On the one side of the coin, the positive side of the coin, you've got exactly what you're suggesting. Look at all these other movies that aren't coming out now. Bloodshot's going to be able to have the theater to itself other than what's already out, right? And therefore, it can make lots of money. Yeah, but on the other side of that coin, that maybe more than balances it out, is the fact that so many people are not going to the movie theaters right now. Like, you guys remember, I made a poll on the John Campea Show the other day. Let me see if I can find it and pull it up here. I'm not sure if I deleted it already or not, but let me see if I still have it. Here it is. Okay, so this was a question I put out 2 or 3 days ago. All right. I put this question up 2 or 3 days ago, and I asked the question. I said, with the infection with the infection of Tom Hanks, cancellation of CinemaCon, South by Southwest, and even the NBA season and NHL season and XFL and Major League Baseball and everything else, will the coronavirus situation affect your movie theater going habits at all? And look how many people, like 35.3% of you said you're still going to go to the movies as normal. But look how many people said they were either going to reduce how often they go or that they're not going at all. 30% of you said not as much of you are going to go now. And 34.6% of you said you're not going to go at all until the coronavirus thing is over. So that's almost 65% of you guys said that you're at least going to go less. And a bunch of you, more than half of that, are saying we're not going to go at all. So yeah, Bloodshot on the one hand has the theater to itself. The unfortunate thing, it's going to have empty theaters to itself. So how that's ultimately going to do for Bloodshot, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Now, it was originally projected to make between $10 and $14 million on its opening weekend. Let's see what the absence of all other movies and the mostly empty theaters is going to do that. We'll find the numbers out tomorrow. We'll see how well Bloodshot does. But I don't think Bloodshot's going to benefit very much from this when you take both sides of the coin into consideration. All right. Let's see. 50 Shades. Where are we at? Yeah, 50 Shades writes, if you were a Jedi, would you use one saber, two sabers, or a double-bladed lightsaber? I'd be classic. I'd go single lightsaber. I would always want a free hand. That would be my thing in any combat situation to give yourself more flexibility for what you can do. I would always want one free hand. I would be a single-bladed lightsaber user. That would be me. All right. Matthew Melograno writes, is the X-Men movie cursed? Or the New Mutants? It feels like it. Of course, it was just announced that New Mutants has also been pushed for the fourth time off of its release date. Fourth time. This is a movie whose trailer came out well over 2 years ago. Was shot well over 3 years ago. It is starting to feel, Matthew, like this damn New Mutants movie is cursed. It really is starting to feel that way. Morris Codes writes, Outbreak is on Netflix. Yeah, somebody wrote that to me the other day to say, actually, John, Outbreak is on Netflix. I'm like, awesome. And I've got it queued up. I'm going to watch. I love that movie, actually. Outbreak is on Netflix. Contagion is on Cinemax or Amazon via Cinemax. Contagion is a newer movie, though. That could be a part of it. Yeah, we've been asking why. Like, I personally think between Contagion and Outbreak, I think Outbreak is a much better movie. Don't get me wrong. I don't dislike Contagion. I like that movie. I do. But I think Outbreak is fantastic. I love that movie. And I was like, why are so many people talking about Contagion and not Outbreak right now? And I guess that is a good answer about it. It is a significantly newer movie, so it's probably fresher on people's minds. But Outbreak is indeed on Netflix. I'd said before that it wasn't, but then somebody reminded me, actually, John, it is, which is great. So if you haven't seen Outbreak, I do suggest you check that out because it's a great little movie. It's not going to make you calm down about the situation, but it's a really good movie. I do encourage you to check it out. All right, thanks for that, Morse Codes. All right. Jay Master writes, sends in a $50 super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, Jay. If there's a question in here, not only are we going to answer it, but we're just about all caught up with our $50 questions. We are also going to answer this question again later in its own standalone video. So thank you for sending this in, and thank you for supporting the channel on that level, dude. So let's see what you got in here. Hey, John. Have you had the chance to watch the new series on Disney Plus, Shop Class, hosted by Justin Long? It's really good. I highly recommend. If so, what are your thoughts on the show? Bring on the filthy. I have not. Actually, somebody brought this up the other day because I actually am a huge Justin Long fan. And for those of you who don't remember who Justin Long is, he's great. He was the kid in Galaxy Quest. He's the kid who was radioing back and forth with them. He was the big fan. He was that. Then he was in Jeepers Creepers. He's been in a lot of stuff. Dodgeball. I said for a long time, when I was back in the movie blog, I said, guys, are these two young actors, this is before anybody really knew their names, that I guarantee are going to become big A-list stars. One is this kid, James Franco. And I had my reason. I just knew this kid's so loaded with talent and blah, 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 blah. And of course, James Franco did go on to become a pretty big name star. The other guy I said that I guarantee you this dude is going to be a big A-list star was Justin Long. I believe a different talent set than James Franco, but every bit as talented as James Franco, if not even more. And I just think he's fantastic. I just love watching this dude on screen. He's got such a great screen presence. He's funny. Anyway. And of course, he didn't go on to become a big A-list star, which is kind of unfortunate because I believe he deserves to be in every way, sense, or form. But no, I have not seen this new show. Disney has been very, very, after launching with Mandalorian, they have done very little to keep up the momentum. They have done very little to keep up the momentum. But this sounds interesting. I might have to check it out. Thank you for putting my radar. And again, I'll probably watch a couple episodes and then do your standalone video and answering your questions. So thank you for that, J Master. I appreciate that. And keep an eye open for your standalone video. All right. Ray Dog writes, what about pay-per-view movies? Is this possible? Yeah, it's possible, but it's financial suicide for the movie studios. Number one, they would be violating all their agreements with the movie theaters. Number two, yeah, you do pay-per-view. Here's the problem. This is where they'll get killed. This is where they'll get killed. They do pay-per-view. Let's say they decide to put out James Bond No Time to Die, and they make it $30 to watch at home, right? Here's the problem. You know what's going to happen. I'm going to have 7 people come over and watch James Bond No Time to Die. You're going to have 8 people come over and watch James Bond No Time to Die. Right? That's what we're going to do. If it's 30 or 40 bucks, we're just going to invite, hey, I'm going to order James Bond No Time. It's like what happens with UFC, right? When there's a big UFC on, I get a hold of Dennis, I get a hold of Spence, I get a hold of Soul, and we get a hold of Mac. We get a hold of all of our friends, right? We get a hold of all of our friends and say, hey, it's a big $60 pay-per-view on tonight. I'm ordering it. We're going to make a night of it. Everybody come over, and then everybody comes over to our house. We pack out our house. We order some food, and we put on the UFC fights. That's what happens every major UFC. But the same thing will happen if they, say, put out James Bond for $45. $45, and you can stream James Bond. Well, what's going to happen? Everybody's going to invite 10 of their friends over. We're going to make a night out of it. And that sounds like fun, but the studio's not going to do that. Because they know if I have 10 people over, then instead they make $40 off me ordering it. Great. Yay, you made $40. Congratulations. But what the studios know is that, hey, we would have gotten $15 per every one of those 10 people buying movie tickets. We would have gotten $10. Would have gotten 10. Even after the theater's cut, we would have gotten $10. That's $100. We just lost 60% of our revenue by putting it on streaming instead of putting it in theaters, like is the way they make money. There was a studio heads roundtable that was put up on YouTube by the Hollywood Reporter and had the heads of the 8 major studios, including Alan Horn from Disney, Rothman from Sony, the head of Netflix, the head of Amazon, the head of Universal, the head of Paramount. They were all there and they did this big roundtable. It's fascinating. It's on YouTube. You can go find it. It's fascinating. But they also mentioned a few times here, it's like home video doesn't make them any money like it used to. It's not like the old days. They really don't make that big of a cut of money from home video sales. It's actually the lion's share of their money comes from theatrical exhibition. That's where the lion's share of their money comes from. And so, yes, they could, number one, the bigger problem too, they'd be violating their agreements with the movie theaters. They'd be violating their agreements with the movie theaters. And that would get them in a lot of trouble. And then the movie theaters will, here's the thing. Everybody forgets there's this symbiotic, delicate relationship between the studios and the movie theater industry. And if the studios, whenever the studios start trying to fuck over the theaters go, okay, that's cool. We're going to fuck you over too when it hurts you the most. So, sorry, I had this thing I was doing last night. I was talking all last night, so my throat is kind of gone. Anyway, my voice is almost gone. So, anyway. So yeah, I mean, I see all these people writing, just do home streaming. It's like it's more complicated than that because the studios know if we just do home streaming, we're actually committing financial suicide, and it's just not an advantageous situation for them. So we'll ride it out, and then they'll put their movies out, and then they'll make all their money, and everybody will be happy. Justin Thau writes, some family members have dealt with racism because of this. In my local store, all Disney princess soup cans are sold out except for the Mulan ones. That's ridiculous. It's just sometimes Sometimes things happen that just demonstrate the utter stupidity of the human race sometimes, and that's just stupid. Make sure Eugene writes, I tried Zevia soda, John. I didn't like it. Hey, yeah, listen. So what I am normally drinking is Zevia. Listen, I remember when I first talked about Zevia, and the reason I drink Zevia is because I used to drink a full 2-liter bottle of Coke per day. Then I realized, oh my God, look how many calories are in that. And so then at some point a number of years ago, I switched to diet soda. But then after drinking diet soda for a while, I realized, wow. And I still drink some diet soda. I still do, but I was drinking like a 2-liter bottle of diet soda a day. And I realized, oh, look at all the crap that's in diet soda and how bad it is for you. So then I had somebody turn me on to Zevia that has no artificial sweeteners. And I said, at first, when I was drinking it, it is an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste at first because it does taste different than regular cola. Even though it's called cola flavor, it does taste different than regular cola. But I found after I was drinking it for a couple of days, I'm like, you know what? Now I really quite like it. But it is an acquired taste. But again, it's like anything, right? There's nothing that's for everybody. So I like it, but that doesn't mean you're going to like it. But I enjoy it. And it's healthier than trying to drink the diet soda crap. Okay, anyway. Let's see. Mike Myers writes, hey, John, have you considered trying Coke Zero sugar instead of Diet Coke? Yes. That's actually, it's what I normally, when I go to the movies, our AMC does not have, because I prefer Coke over Pepsi, but I actually vastly prefer Diet Pepsi over Diet Coke. So when I go to the movie theaters, the AMC I go to, unfortunately, they don't have Pepsi products, they have Coke products. So what I do is I get Coke Zero and zero sugar. And it is better than Diet Coke. Coke Zero is better than Diet Coke. It's still not as good as Diet Pepsi, though, to me. But yes, I have drank Coke Zero. When I go to the movie theaters that doesn't have Pepsi products, that is the drink of my choice, actually. All right, Geeky Gators, a Russian plant writes, yesterday you mentioned going live more due to mass amounts of people having to work from home due to Corona. I just wanted to add my 2 cents worth. Yes, please. Yeah, so what I was saying on yesterday's show, because Anne actually suggested this to me. Anne said, a lot of the community love hanging out online like we do when we do the live shows. So a lot of the people who watch, they love watching live shows and interacting with each other as we do the shows. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. And Anne suggested to me, she said, well, since so many people now, because she's got to work from home too, so many people now are staying home, working from home, doing all that kind of stuff for a while. Maybe you should do a little bit more live streaming. So, people staying at home during the day can hang out with the community more. I thought that's an interesting idea. And I think I will do that. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to kick up, what was I calling them? Play and watch? Or watch, whatever, where you guys can just watch me play video games. And I went back to a classic that I never really got into, which was because I was doing other things. When I started getting into it, I got into other things and I just forgot about it. But I downloaded Diablo 3 again yesterday because Diablo 4 is coming. At least so Blizzard says. But Diablo 3, I thought, you know what? I'm going to download Diablo 3. And I think this week I'm going to start doing some play-in chats, playing Diablo 3. And I'll be terrible at it. I'm sure I'll be terrible at it. But it'll just give us as an excuse to jump online here together, stream, hang out, chat while I'm playing Diablo 3 and stuff like that. And maybe I'll start doing some, I might even start doing some afternoon open mics. So, but whatever. You guys tell me if you would like that or not. Because, we're already doing a 2-hour John Campea show every morning. And maybe for a lot of you, that's plenty. That's plenty. But maybe there's some of you who think, no, let's do some more during the day since so many of us are going to be working from home and at home during the day. So you guys let me know if that's worth it. And if it is, then I'll do it. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, thanks for throwing that in there, Geeky Gator is a Russian plant. All right. Akamaru writes, hey, John. With the virus that shall not be named affecting theaters and events, I figured I'd take advantage of this opportunity to catch up with my backlog of movies. That's a great use of your time, dude. My list includes Lawrence of Arabia. That's one of my top 10 all-time favorites. One of the greatest films ever made. Peter O'Toole, Lawrence of Arabia is a must-have movie in anybody's filmography list. You got to watch it. I'm glad you're going to get caught up on that. Godfather trilogy, Parasite, Bombshell, Spartacus, Cleopatra, and 1917. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. Akamaru, you are putting your time to some good use, my friend. These are all Wonderful movies. Wonderful movies. And I'm getting goosebumps and hair on my arm standing up out of pure jealousy that you get to watch the Godfather films for the first time. Because I'll never get to do that again. You never get to watch a movie for a first time again. And you get to do it, and you got so many, and Spartacus is also my top 10 favorites of all time. Good on you, man. I hope you enjoy, my friend. All right, 50 Shades writes, where do we go? There we are. You all had some great ideas for a potential Back to the Future remake yesterday. Imagine this. A kid from the 2020s goes back to 1985, watches the original Back to the Future, and uses it as a basis for what he's going to do. That is very meta. It's very meta. So Rob and myself and Aaron yesterday, we were talking about, okay, if you do a Back to the Future, what's the best way to do it? And I think all three of us agreed that if you're going to remake Back to the Future, the best way is not to have it set in the 80s and then the kid goes back to the 50s. Because when Back to the Future came out, it was about the modern setting for it. For it, the modern setting was in the 80s. And then he went back 30 years. So I think all of us agreed that the best thing to do would be to set it in modern day, the 2020s, or 2021, 2022, 2023, whatever year the movie comes out. And then he goes back to the 80s. Now, if he was going to go back 30-some years, he'd be going back to the 90s, but we all agree we think the 80s is a better setting for it. So we all agree that that's the best thing. Now, introducing him going back and then finding the original Back to the Future movie and using that as a blueprint, to me, that's an interesting idea. It's very meta, but it's a little too meta to me, and it's a little too on the nose. So I think I would just like a pure, fresh reboot, personally. But that's just me. But that could be a very intriguing idea. All right, 50 Shades also writes, my computer died last week, and that sucks. But in the spirit of looking on the bright side, I had more time to play Jedi Fallen Order on the PS4. If you're going to spend more time at home, maybe you should give it a try. I like that game more and more the more I played. Oh, I played it a bunch. I did play it a bunch. And as a matter of fact, here, let me pull something up here. Let me see if I can find it. My wife, Anne, let's see. I'm going to try to pull it up if I can. I'm having trouble pulling it up. I'm not sure why. There we go. So my wife, Anne, does a lot of cosplay. And she has let me bring it up here. She has a Instagram channel that's just for her cosplay. So Anne does a lot of cosplay, and she's great at it. But one of her cosplays that she's been doing is what was the sister's name? The whichever sister, second sister. Is that who the character is? She did the second sister cosplay from the Jedi Fallen Order game. And I think her cosplay on that looks awesome. Anyway, if you guys want to find her, you just look up Ann Campea Cosplay Instagram. You should be able to find her. Go and follow her. There because her cosplay is actually really great. So you guys should go check that out. And she was playing one of the Inquisitors, which is pretty cool. Anyway, let's see. Suthius writes, hey, Mr. C, with the virus, a lot of schools, school activities, and even theme parks will be closed. By the way, we all know that Disneyland got shut down. I just got an email because I'm an annual pass holder for Universal Studios Hollywood. Just got an email from them yesterday saying they're closed down now for at least the next 2 weeks. So yeah, the theme parks are closing too. School activities and even theme parks will be closed for 2 to 3 weeks. A lot of us will stay home, will mostly stay home. How does Disney make life a little better for us by dropping Frozen 2 on Disney Plus this weekend, 3 months early? Yeah, so of course, Frozen 2 was already out on home video. You can watch Frozen 2 at home now. It's available for rent. I was on my Google Play Store account yesterday, and there's Frozen 2. It's available for rent. It has been for a little bit, but Disney Plus wasn't going to put it on Disney Plus for another couple of months, and they moved up the schedule. So now if you're home with your kids and you're looking for a little something to do and you have Disney Plus, they moved it up and put Frozen 2 on. So actually that was a nice little move. I thought that was a really nice little move on their part to do that. So yeah, go and check that out if you're into. And by the way, I like Frozen 2 very much. I know that's not a cool thing to say. It's not cool to say you like Frozen or Frozen 2. I like Frozen 2. I think it's pretty good. I had a very good time watching it. So yeah, sit at home. If you got Disney Plus, watch yourself some Frozen 2. Okay, next up, Suthius also writes, Not sure why I'm so late on this train, but I just binge watched Westworld Season 1 in a day, and I'm loving it. I love the twists, love the acting. Always thought Thandie Newton was talented, but man, she's really good. We'll definitely binge Season 2 before Season 3 starts tomorrow. And I'll tell you what, a couple of interesting things. I'm a little opposite from you, Suthius. Number one, I've never thought Thandie Newton could act. I'll just tell you straight up. I've never thought she was a decent actress. I don't dislike her. I'm just saying I've never thought she was actually all that good. I actually think she's very good in Westworld. She's very good in Westworld. And I was like, wow. Like I saw, because there are a lot of other people that have always liked Thandie Newton as an actress. She's like one of the most beautiful women on the planet. That much is obvious. But I watched her performance in Westworld. And I'm like, okay, if this is what other people were seeing, I get it. Because she is wonderful in that show. But I've never been a fan of her before that, to be honest with you. I just have never been that impressed. But in Westworld, loved it. But I didn't like the show all that much. Like, I finished Westworld Season 1. I'm like, it certainly has some strong parts. A lot of dry dragging. But I'll give Season 2 a try. And then Season 2 started, and I really liked the first couple of episodes of Season 2. And then I just lost all interest in the show after that. And I did finish it out. I finished out Season 2. At the end of Season 2, I said, all right, I finished the season. I'm tapping out. I'm done. This show is it's not good enough. And I know there are people who love it, and that's great. But I'm just like, nah, it just didn't do it for me. That's all. Just not for me. Just not for me. So I had no intention of watching Westworld Season 3. And then that newest trailer dropped with the Guns N' Roses song. And that trailer it's the balls, man. That trailer is awesome. Like, just awesome. That's the power of a trailer. Because I watched that trailer, a guy who was like, oh, yep, I'm done with Westworld. Oh, Season 3 trailer, I'll watch the trailer. And then all of a sudden, I am watching Westworld Season 3. Like, I went from no interest at all watching Westworld Season 3. I had tapped out of the show, done with it. It's just not for me. That's fine. And then that trailer comes around, and all of a sudden, like, I can't wait to watch Westworld Season 3. It's just the power that a trailer has. So it's going to be interesting to see if it turns out well. All right, Thanos writes, does Kevin Feige have any say in the discussions about to move/not move Black Widow, or is that between Alan Horn and above? It's not Kevin Feige's decision. It's not Kevin Feige's decision. He is in charge. He is the president of Marvel. All right. He's in charge of Marvel and the production. I'm sure they will consult. When it comes to the distribution of the movie, though, that is not his area. He's not in charge of that. Now, I'm sure they'll consult him. I'm sure they'll ask for his opinion. I'm sure they'll go, hey, what do you think of this? Here's an example, okay? So when I was still at Collider, when I was still there, I was in charge of all the shows that we did, right? Because that was my area. We were owned by Complex. So we were all under the Complex banner. And I like Complex, by the way. And I believe Complex is a studio. I believe they put out Hot Ones, the interview show where they try to eat the hotter and hotter chicken wings, right? But just because I was in charge of certain things, that didn't mean I had any say in what they did on Hot Wings. That's a different thing altogether. The production of movies and the distribution of movies are two different things. So Alan Horn, as the head supreme ruler of all of Disney movies, he's got his generals who look after the production end. He's got his generals that look after Pixar, and his generals that look after Lucasfilm, and his generals that look after Marvel, Kevin Feige, and his generals that look after Disney Pictures, and his generals that look after Disney Animation. He's got all of his generals, but he also has his distribution wing. And those are the people that make those decisions. They can consult, but ultimately Kevin Feige has no actual say in it. He only has as much say as they'll give him. So that's how that kind of works. Anyway, let's see. Jishan Kadir writes, one of two. Greetings, John. Have you seen Netflix's Korean period piece Kingdom and their zombies? The second season just released, and oh my hee. First time writing 2 messages. So anyways, 2 seasons, 6 episodes each. There's political drama mixed with zombies. It's just a lot of fun. I have not started. Actually, Ann and I almost, when we got back last night, we almost put on Kingdom. Our friend Kaori, who you've seen on my videos before, our friend Kaori, she has been desperately trying to get us to watch Kingdom. And she's told us all about it. She's been desperately trying to get us to watch it. She's like, it's so good. It's so good. So Ann and I are probably during her work stint from home. Now that we're both going to be in the house a lot, we'll probably at night, maybe before we go to bed, we'll start, banging out these different episodes of Kingdom. So we're finally going to get around to watching the next 2 weeks. So I haven't watched it yet myself, but I've had my friends, including some of you guys, have been telling me to really check out Kingdom, saying it's really, really good. So we're going to get on it in the next couple of weeks. We're definitely going to get on in the next couple of weeks. Thank you so much for the recommendation, Jinhan. I appreciate that, my friend. All right. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, I understand your stance on gaming. Hold on a second. Sorry about this. I'm getting a little glitch. Okay, there we go. Hey, John, I understand your stance on gaming. Sorry, I lost it again. Sorry, my thing is glitching out here. Give me a second to try to... Okay, I understand your stance on gaming, but not sure if you've seen Spawn coming to Mortal Kombat 11. It looks amazing. As a big fan of the character, it's just cool to see him on the screen again. I wish the movie would get out of development hell. Here's the problem, Russell. I don't know if you're a fan of Spawn. I'm not sure that you want this movie to get out of development hell. I'm not sure you really want that. Because McFarlane has insisted that he's going to make the movie himself. A guy who has no idea about making live action movies in the least. He has no experience in it whatsoever. And he's insisting he's going to make it himself. And he thought it was going to be easy. And then he's been documenting online. It's like, oh, the Hollywood money people won't let me do this and don't want me to do this. We have different ideas because you don't know what you're doing, McFarlane. So honestly, I feel like if you're a real big fan of Spawn, I don't know that you want this movie getting out of development hell. Not if he's going to do it himself. If McFarlane was right, was smart, what he would do is finance the movie himself if he can get the money together, because it's expensive. And then make one of the big things he does is hire an actual director and put them in charge of the movie. But he's doing it himself, and I just fear for it. And by the way, I don't even think it's actually going to happen. I don't think the movie's actually going to happen. I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying I don't feel like it will. I'm not going to be shocked if it does happen. I'm just saying if I had to put $2 bet on it, I would bet the movie's not going to happen at all. And I don't know that people should want it to happen if you're a fan of it, but who knows? We'll see. All right, Richard Karate writes, at the end of this year's Arrowverse crossover, Crisis on Infinite Earths, at the end, Diggle picked up a box. When he opens it, it was a green light. Is this saying Diggle will be Green Lantern? I don't know that it means anything. It could just be an interesting little Easter egg. It could be them planting a seed that if we choose down the road to come back and do something, we've planted this seed so we can come back to it. Too many people think that just because something happens in a show, that automatically means they're planning on doing something later. That's not the case. Sometimes what they do with these shows is they plant these little seeds, so later, if they want to come back to it, they've already laid some groundwork to go back and revisit. I think the obvious implied message there was that it was one of the rings, that it was a Green Lantern ring. I think that is clearly the implied message. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're ramping up production to do Diggle as a Green Lantern show. But it means if they ever want to incorporate that into one of their storylines on one of their CW shows, they've laid the groundwork and they can do it if they want. But I believe, Richard, the implied message, my guess is that it was a Green Lantern ring. It was a Green Lantern core ring, I think. All right. Richard also writes, part 1. Do you think the upcoming Spider-Man 3, Peter could use Mysterio's hologram tech to make a Spider-Man so that if he's in school or on the street and people approach him, and if people approach him saying, you're Spider-Man, or people try to attack him, Spider-Man appears and he can say, no, I'm not Spider-Man. I'm here. I can't be in two places at once. And that will undo it. I don't know. That I thought all of Mysterio's illusion tech got destroyed. I might be wrong about that. I might have to go back and double check that. But I thought all of Mysterio's illusion tech got wrecked. So, but that might not be the case. That might not be true. I don't know. It seems like a real cheap out. It seems like a cheap out. Listen, I still think, regardless of what anybody's saying, I kind of feel like there might be a 50% chance that the sticky situation that Mysterio and Jay Jonah set up at the end of Far From Home is actually resolved in like the first 1 minute of the movie, where they do a double take where it's like, look, I'm here and there's Spider-Man, something like that. I think there might be some way they kind of, like whether S.H.I.E.L.D. gets involved to help him out, or, you know, Nick Fury or the person posing as Nick Fury comes out, makes a public statement on behalf of the government. We have been working with Spider-Man and we can tell you in no uncertain terms it's not Peter Parker, or something like that. I still, like, maybe the next Spider-Man movie will be kind of like what people are suggesting. The whole thing is him dealing with that fallout. I think there's a 50% chance, a coin toss chance, that that whole situation actually gets resolved in the first minute of the movie. And then the movie is about something else. I don't know for sure, but it feels like that could be what they do. And that could be like kind of doubling down on the whole illusion tech and stuff like that. That could be one of the ways they do it. But I thought that all of his tech got destroyed. I could be wrong about that, though. Okay, thanks for sending that in, Richard. All right, next up. Terry Giordano writes, hi, John. Hope you're doing well. I am doing well. Thank you very much. I see AMC is only selling 50% of seats to allow more space between seats and will show as sold out once they reach that mark. Starts today and runs until April 30th. Do we think this is a good plan and will it make us want to attend? I do think it's a good plan. It's a plan that makes sense. Now look, when you educate yourself on the coronavirus, you understand that there's a lot of factors that go into how high the risk is that you could get it. Having physical space between you and somebody who may have it reduces, does not eliminate, be clear on that. It reduces the chances that you'll get it. If there are 100 people in a theater instead of 200 people in the theater, that reduces your chances of getting it. All these things are being done to take the already low chance that you'll get it and trying to reduce that chance even more. Understand, though, that, you know, we all just have to accept at some point that whenever we step out our door, we are entering into a realm that we are exposing ourselves to some risk. But we do things to minimize the risk. There's still risk. You could still get it. You might just walk to McDonald's, order a Big Mac, come back, and maybe along the way you bumped into somebody and maybe you get it. That's possible. But if you have a choice, and again, I'm no medical expert, so take what I say with a massive grain of salt. You have a choice every day. Do I just stay in the house and self-quarantine, which is a very valid option? Or do I still want to venture out, but be smart about it and minimize the risks that I'm taking? The movie theater's taking the step to say we're going to limit sales of our tickets to 50% capacity. And any movie theaters that are bigger than 500 seats, they're going to cap the tickets at 250. So no more than 250 people in a theater. But if the local theater has 60 seats, they're only going to sell 30. It at least gives you an opportunity to reduce the risk that you're taking. Will that be enough to get people who are saying, we don't want to go to the movies while this is going on? Will that be enough to make them feel more comfortable about going? I think there are some people it'll make them feel more comfortable about going and some people that it won't. Some people will feel more comfortable going and some people won't. But I think it's a common sense move. It's a common sense move. So we'll see what happens. Look, I still think there's a possibility here in the upcoming days, in the next few weeks, that we may hear that AMC and Regal are just going to shut down for a few weeks. I think we may get to the point where that happens. But for now, they're staying open. They're making some common sense decisions about, they've employed new techniques about, and heightened standards about cleaning the theaters in between, about sanitation and all that kind of stuff, minimizing the number of people per theater. They're making all these decisions, and these are good common sense decisions, but it may go even further than that. So let's see what happens there, Terry. All right. Jetfire 97 writes, theory: Red Guardian, Yelena, and Melina could be imprisoned on the raft. General Ross has control there. Maybe that's why they weren't seen post 2017. Maybe, but remember, the world's a big place. I mean, here's the problem with shared cinematic universe stuff. As soon as we as the audience see one character somewhere in the shared cinematic universe, we're trying to come up with ways. We feel like we need to come up with explanations about why we don't see them later. And a possibility is they're just not there. They're just not there. They're off in Russia doing something else, right? But we feel like we need there to be an explanation as to why they don't show up. And that's one of the problems with shared cinematic universe movies. Like, there are a lot of people, listen, when Infinity War and Endgame were coming out, there were so many people that were really pissed off that Daredevil and Jessica Jones and Luke Cage weren't, and Iron Fist weren't there and a part of it. How do you explain they're heroes? How do you explain they weren't there? Because they're not. I mean, right? And I think that's one of the problems. So I don't know. It doesn't see, there are some people going into Black Widow thinking these characters must die or they must be in prison in the raft because that's the only way to explain them not showing up later. When in reality is there's a lot of people who don't show up. They're just not there. They're just not a part of it. So I'm not saying they are going to die or that they're not going to die, or that they are going to end up on the raft or they're not going to end up on the raft. I just think that we need not think that there must be some explanation. We can just go, okay, they just weren't there and that's it. You know what I mean? But it's a possibility, Jetfire. It's definitely a possibility. So we'll see how that all works out. Okay. Miggy B writes, Disney Plus will lead to the end of Disney physical releases. Yes, it will. I believe that. Before it was moved up due to the virus, Frozen 2 wasn't set to stream on Disney Plus till this summer. Forced me to buy the DVD in March. Will this be the Disney way for a while? Parent of a 5-year-old. Well, I mean, you weren't forced to buy a physical disc. You could have streamed it. I mean, it was available on stream, not Disney Plus, but you could have gone on Google Play. I mean, it's available for rent on Google Play for like $4.99, so you could have got it there. But, Miggy, I do believe, I've said this for a while, that I believe that Disney Plus is ultimately a harbinger to the end of Disney putting out movies on physical media. Because Disney won't want you to go and get their movies. They'll want you to be a subscriber to Disney Plus. Now, we can argue and debate as to whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. For sure. We can debate whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. But I do believe that's the way they're going. And we'll see. We'll see. As far as, is this a pattern? I don't know if this is a pattern or if this really just was Disney saying, hey, you know what? A lot of people are going to be at home. For our Disney Plus subscribers, let's move up the release and put it up on Disney Plus early. I don't know if that was a part of an overall scheme or if it really was just them being altruistic and saying, oh, you know what? Let's just put it out so people at home can have another big movie to watch at home. Maybe, I don't know. It's interesting to see, but I think you're absolutely right, Miggy. I think Disney Plus is ultimately going to be the end of Disney physical media. I believe that. Whether it's going to take 6 months or 6 years, I don't know, but I do think this is going to be the thing that leads to the end of it. All right, Willow writes, it's sad to hear about Italy. Yeah, terrible stuff going on there, where their healthcare is so overwhelmed and they have to choose who to save. The reason why we must flatten the curve is because there's a huge difference between 1,000 people sick in one day over the course of several weeks, and that's a lot of the things that people forget. It's like the number of people who have coronavirus for a while there was doubling every 4 days, and I put this out on my Twitter yesterday. 250 people in Italy alone died in the last 24 hours from the coronavirus. 250 people in one day died from the coronavirus. And that was up from the 200 people who died in one day the day before. So yeah, I mean, it can be, there are still some people out there, again, pointing to the idiocy of the human race right now. There are still a bunch of people out there who think this is no big deal. It's a big, and they keep comparing it to the flu. It's like, you need to do some reading. Listen, guys, please stop getting your education from what other people, from the people who you follow on Twitter are writing. Okay? Please stop getting your education from the people you follow on Twitter. I'm not saying Twitter's useless. I like Twitter. I do. But go and read the World Health Organization material on it. It's there. It's online. I know you're going to have to do a little bit of effort and actually do some reading, but go read the CDC reports and what they're saying. I'm just thinking we just need to educate ourselves more, because the worst case scenario is always brought on by ignorance. The worst case scenario is always brought on by ignorance. And I just think people need to, and I get so frustrated reading somebody writing on social media, oh, well, it's just the flu. And it's like, oh, God, please stop spreading your ignorance. Please stop spreading your ignorance and just go read. And by the way, I have found that the ignorance over this situation is not limited to any one political thing. This isn't a political thing. I see people of all political persuasions being dumb about this. I do. And I see people of all political persuasions, left, right, centrist, trying to speak common sense. I see it all on social media. So this isn't a political left or right thing. This is like everybody. And I think we just all need to put in a little bit of effort, get a little bit educated on it, so we'll know, when we really need to be on alert and when it's not time to panic. So, and I think if just people educated themselves a bit more and stop getting their education from the people they follow on Twitter, then might be a little bit better off. But anyway, that's kind of my thought on things. Damo Davies writes, I used to get told by my mom not to watch the 1900 Frank Marshall movie Arachnophobia. I don't think it was in the 1900s. Arachnophobia when I was a kid. When I was younger, I was always watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, and other slashers. It's a pretty intense movie, rated PG in the UK. Now, that's the one with Courtney Cox's husband, right? Why am I forgetting the name of Courtney Cox's ex-husband, I should say? Hold on a second. David, well, what's his last name? Hold on a second, let me look this up. Arachnophobia, IMDb. I should know David's name because I met him. It was the 1990 movie. And it, oh no, I'm not thinking of, the movie I'm thinking of with Courtney Cox's ex-husband, whose first name is David, and he was the WCW World Heavyweight Champion for a while. And I can't, right, no, that was Giant Freaking Spiders. I think that was the name. Arachnophobia, the Jeff Daniels movie. The totally different one with John Goodman as well. That one was directed by Frank Marshall. Sorry, I was thinking of like Giant Freaking Spiders or something. And I say, totally different movie. I liked Arachnophobia. But how much did I like it? Not a lot. I didn't like Arachnophobia. I mean, I liked it. It was a fun little movie, but it's not like one that I ever revisited. I think I saw it once or twice when it came out. And then I don't think I've ever revisited since. Well, with Jeff Daniels and John Goodman, you think maybe it might be worth it, but I was never that big on it. It was okay. I liked it though, but it was never that big. I was totally thinking of Giant Freaking Spiders. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's see. Vivek writes, John HV, have you seen Money Heist on Netflix? I loved it. Money Heist. I don't think so. 1917 movie. Nope. I have not seen, nor have, do not believe I've even heard of it. So no, I have not seen it, nor have I heard of it. But thanks for putting it on my radar. Now, if somebody else brings it up again, I'll go, I have heard of that. So thanks for putting it on my radar. All right. Damo Davies writes, watching the Jurassic World special features and listening to Spielberg's approach as a producer is great. He says he likes to give his directors as much freedom to make their movie as they want, but is always there to support and advise them as needed. Yeah, I mean, that's always been Spielberg's thing. Now, of course, listen, everybody knows who watches this show that I am, maybe to a fault, a massive fanboy of Steven Spielberg. I am a massive Steven Spielberg fanboy. I believe he is the GOAT. He is the greatest filmmaker of all time, in my opinion. That said, there are producers' credits that he has that are clearly honorary. I really don't think he puts much effort into produce. And I think there are some movies he did put more effort into and he was more present for as a producer. But I also know when you look down his filmography of all the movies that have him listed as a producer, there are movies he's listed as a producer on that he didn't do anything more than take one meeting or make a phone call and take a check because their studios just want his name on as a producer. And he did next to nothing on the movies. I think Jurassic Park was one of the ones that he was clearly more involved in. I think that's great. But I always raise an eyebrow, as much as he is my favorite filmmaker of all time. Whenever I see Steven Spielberg as producer, Steven Spielberg, I roll my eyes a little bit. Because I'm like, yeah, what did you do, Steven? Did you sit down for one lunch meeting with the director of the film and gave him your thoughts, and then boom, you get a producer credit? Did they just send you a big check for $150,000 to let them put your name on as a producer? I mean, because, I've always said the title producer is the most nebulous title in all of filmmaking. Because somebody can have a producer title, and it could mean that they worked their ass off for 3 years to bring this movie to the big screen. But somebody can have the same title and they literally took one lunch meeting to give their thoughts on something. Or it's like, oh yeah, I know. See, here's a good example. Let's say Rob was making a movie. Let's say Robert Meyer Burnett was making a movie, right? And he wants Milo Ventimiglia to be in his movie. But he has, again, I'm making up a fairy tale situation here, okay? I'm just making up a fairy tale situation. But he doesn't have any ins with Milo Ventimiglia. Well, it's not like we're buddies or anything like that, but I do know Milo Ventimiglia. He's partly responsible for me meeting my wife. I haven't spoken to him in years, but I know him, I guess. I could put you in touch. I mean, I got his email address. I can put you in touch with Milo if you'd like. But if I do put you in touch with Milo and he signs up for your movie, give me a producer credit. I mean, literally. So you can have two people with the same title on a movie, the same credit on a movie, but one could be somebody that busted their ass for 3 years making that movie happen, and another one could be a schlub like me that just goes, oh yeah, I'll put you in touch with this person, but if he does end up signing, I get a producer credit, an associate producer, whatever. You got to give me some kind of credit. I mean, it's the most nebulous term in all of movies, because it could mean, like when somebody says it was directed by this guy, you know what that means. You know what they did in the movie, but somebody says they were a producer and you're never really quite sure what the extent of that is. All right. Adam Henson writes, hey, John, hope you're doing well. I am doing well. Thank you so much. I'm a massive fan of Slipknot. I'm a massive Slipknot fan, and they had a massive impact on pop culture and was wondering, can a Slipknot biopic work? I mean, I doubt it. I mean, let's put it this way. I don't care about musicians' biopics. All musicians' biopics are the same. They're all the same. Some are better, some are worse. Some are really good, some I have no idea, but they're all the same. I mean, honestly, you look at Walk the Line, you look at Bohemian Rhapsody, and I love Walk the Line, I love Bohemian Rhapsody, but you look at Walk the Line, Bohemian Rhapsody, Rocket Man. If I told you, okay, we're going to make this movie. All right, we're going to make this movie. And it's about this dude, as a young man, he didn't have a lot, but he had talent. He had dreams. And as he started to develop his talent, he started to ascend to greatness. And during that ascension, he got caught up in vices and that nearly destroyed him. But he was able to find personal salvation. You know, he was able to find a way back, something that to get his life back. Okay. Was I just I had one movie in mind as I was just saying that. Now you tell me, was I just describing Walk the Line, Bohemian Rhapsody, or Rocket Man? Well, the answer is it's the same thing. What I just described applies to all three. It's all three. So I don't really care. Personally, I don't care much about musical biopics, even though there are some that I really, really like. I don't think there are enough Slipknot fans. And on top of that, I don't know anything about Slipknot to know if they even have an interesting story. So my first guess is no. My guess would be no, Slipknot biopic wouldn't work. But then again, understand this. I have a very eclectic sense of music. Like I like, there's a lot. If you go to my playlist, I've got metal, I've got classic, I've got rock, I've got pop, I've got hip hop, I've got everything on my playlist. So I have but my all-time favorite band is U2. U2 is my all-time favorite band. And I don't think a biopic on them would be very interesting either, to be honest with you. Oh, no, you can make an argument. Bono does a lot of world work for charitable work and does things trying to make, okay, maybe there's some interesting stuff there. But in general, if you're going to ask me tomorrow, hey, would I rather have a Megaforce remake or a U2 biopic? I'm going to say a Megaforce remake. Give me a remake of Megaforce all day, every day. I'm just not interested in a U2 biopic, even though they're my favorite band. So anything can work. A Slipknot thing could work, I suppose, but only in as much as anything could work. I personally don't think it's something to be pursued, but I don't think my favorite band's biopic should be pursued either. All right, Luke1234 writes, has coronavirus affected your grocery shopping yet? No, I gotta say, not yet. The only thing that was affected was I put in an Instacart, because I use Instacart a lot because I'm too lazy to go to the grocery store most of the time. Instacart is an app you can use to just choose all your groceries and then they pick them up for you and bring them to you. The only effect I've seen of the coronavirus thing on shopping has been that part of my last order was ordering a bag of toilet paper and the store was out. So that's it. Now, thankfully, Ann and I actually, we do have a bunch of toilet paper in the house. We're fine. So good. We're not going to run out of toilet paper anytime soon, but it's just part of my regular once a month I'll order toilet paper. And they just said they didn't have that, but they had everything else that I ordered. Everything else came in. So yeah, I had no problems on that side. So for the most part, I've had no issues so far. All right. Russell Amador writes, hey, John, will you be tuning into the UFC card today? It should be good with Kevin Lee. I am. I'm glad Dana White found a way to keep the upcoming fights going by moving them to the UFC Apex. Hopefully the same happens for Ferguson/Khabib. We need this one. Yeah. So what has happened is Dana White has made the announcement. He's the head dude of the UFC. He's made the announcement that all UFC events are moving forward as planned, except they're moving the events to the UFC facilities without a live audience. So the fights will still happen. I'm going to be able to watch and tune in and watch the fights, and they're still going to happen, all that kind of stuff. But they're not going to be in the big auditoriums. They're not going to be in the big stadiums. While the coronavirus stuff is going on, they're going to, and I think that's great. I think that's great because the fights need to go on. The show must go on. And they found a way to do it without putting other people at risk of doing it. So I think it's great. It is going to be weird watching a UFC fight, but it's going to be no different than watching Ultimate Fighter, I guess, the reality show, because they do that without a live studio audience as well. They just have people in there. It will be a little bit weird, though, watching these big name UFC fighters fighting and not hearing a crowd in the background. It is going to be a little bit weird, but I'm glad they're doing that as well. So yes, I will be watching the fight tonight for sure. All right. Undead Sick 83 writes, hey, John, I want to continue our discussion from last time because I love debating. I do have respect for the movie business. I have a brother who works in the industry. It's a freaking hard job. I get it. My point, though, is that I feel the making the best movie possible and giving the fandom what they want are not exclusive to each other. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for creative freedom. And when it comes to original content, I won't complain. Falling Down is my top 25 movies of all time. But when it comes to things that are already written and already set in stone, I have a different mindset. Game of Thrones is the example of what happens when you give filmmakers too much freedom. Again, I completely disagree. And I appreciate the debate as well, Undead Sick, I do. But I still completely disagree. You see, again, it all goes back. We have precedent. This is the issue. This is what I keep coming back to. We have precedent that shows completely breaking with the comic books works. Not always, but it does. Again, you look at Civil War. The movie Civil War is so fundamentally different from the comic book. There are some thematic similarities, yes, but you hear me and Robert Meyer Burnett who talk about this all the time. There are thematic similarities, some thematic similarities between the Civil War movie and the Civil War story in the comic books, but they are fundamentally different completely. I mean, John Schnepp used to talk about that a lot too, because you're not going to find a bigger defender of, the canon of comic books than John Schnepp was. But John Schnepp was also a filmmaker. And John Schnepp was always like, yeah, you make it different, son. You're making a movie. You're making a movie, son. That's what you do. You take whatever liberty you need to. Now, look, if you're doing a Deadpool movie, look, I've always said this. Stick with the source material where you can, and then feel no hesitation about departing from the source material when you need to. And I think that's why we've been able to get movies like Days of Future Past, which I believe is a top 10 greatest comic book movie ever made, and is nothing like the Days of Future Past story in the comic books. That's why I feel like we've been able to get, a Civil War and stuff like that. Dark Knight does not beholden to any source material in the Batman comics. None. It's its own thing. And it takes its own liberties. We've been able to get that because there's the concept of maintaining the spirit of something, but then also making your story. And the reality is this. A very, very small percentage of people who go to the movies actually read comic books. It's a sad truth, but it is a truth nonetheless. People who are hardcore comic book readers only make up a fraction of the overall number of people who go to the movies. And so it is simply bad business to exclusively serve a small fraction of your film goers, when really what you should be doing is making the best movie possible, period. And if that means that you do it while staying fairly true to the comic source, great. My argument has always been this, though. Let's use Star Trek terminology for a second. What is your prime directive? Like your main rule that is your guiding star. What is your prime directive in making a movie? I have never suggested screw fans. Like for instance, my all-time favorite comic book story. My all-time favorite comic book story is X-Men Age of Apocalypse. That's my all-time favorite story in comic books is Age of Apocalypse. So I'm not saying screw my love of Age of Apocalypse. Just throw it all in the garbage. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is if you have to decide what is your prime directive, staying as close to the source material as possible is your prime directive, or making the best movie possible is your prime directive. And if that means having to sacrifice source material, then you sacrifice source material. To me, the answer is 10 times out of 10. The prime directive rule should be not stay true to the source material, but make the best movie possible. That is the prime directive. And as I said last week, it's often you can make them both live together, sure. But if it ever comes to a conflict and it ever comes to an issue, okay, we got one of two things we can do in this movie. One will make the movie better, but one will stay closer to the source material. Then you go with what makes the movie better. That is your North Star. That is your prime directive. That is the thing that takes precedence over everything else. And that's why we're able to get movies like Days of Future Past and The Dark Knight and Civil War, because as filmmakers, Kevin Feige knew, let's capture the spirit of what the comic books are. But if it ever comes down to a choice of, we've got a filmmaking choice to make right here, one will stay more true to the source material, but one we believe will make the movie better, get rid of that one and you go with what makes the movie better. All day, every day, 10 times out of 10 a day is that. So, and yeah, where you can, make it similar to the source material where you can, absolutely. But the moment there is any conflict between faithfulness to the source material versus making what you as a filmmaker believe will make this a better movie, you go with what you as a filmmaker believe will make the better movie. Because ultimately, you might ruffle the feathers of us 1%ers who are the comic book readers. You might ruffle our feathers a little bit, but we will overall make a better experience for the 99%. And hopefully the 1%ers will end up liking the movie anyway, even though we ruffle their feathers a little bit here and there. So to me, that is always the prime directive. That is always the prime directive. Like, I don't want to come across as if I'm saying, okay, when you start off making a comic book movie, just start by taking all the comic book lore and burning it. I'm not suggesting that in the least. Not in the least. I'm simply saying, though, that the prime concern of a filmmaker should never be what keeps it faithful to the source material. The prime directive should always be what makes the better movie. And when you can work all in the source material where you can to make your best movie, do it. But the moment you have to make a decision between the two, you always make the decision about what makes the best movie. And that's how I feel about it. All the filmmakers I know feel the same way about that. Even John Schnepp felt that way about it. So anyway, that's kind of my feelings on it. And again, I love that you keep bringing it up. I do. I mean, it's a thoughtful topic. It's an important topic for those of us who love comic book movies. It absolutely is. And I'm glad you've got your position on it. So I appreciate you writing that in, man. I appreciate the discussion. We still have fundamentally different positions on that. And that's still okay because we're still friends and we still love talking about movies together. And that's a great thing. So thanks for sending that in, Undead. All right. Ryan Lohner writes, turns out there's a whole bunch of stage productions of 12 Angry Jurors on YouTube with the title change allowing some of them to be women. Oh, that's interesting because there was, of course, the classic 12 Angry Men. It's pretty neat to see the various ways this used to add some extra nuance. That's cool. Listen, I'm always finding, YouTube can be a cesspool. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. YouTube can be a cesspool sometimes. Absolutely it can. But there's also some wondrous stuff that you'll find out there. And Ryan, I didn't even know that stuff was there because now I'm going to be tempted to go look that up. So thank you so much for sharing that because you find these really cool little things and that's really good that that's there. So thanks for the heads up on that, Ryan, and putting that on all of our radars. I appreciate that. All right, Raymond Verrata writes, San Francisco ordered to prohibit all indoor public and private gatherings and outdoor gatherings within an enclosed space that has a maximum occupant load of 100 people or more. This affects all theaters in the city. Will studios stream new releases? Again, we went into the whole discussion about streaming. That would be financial suicide for them. And it would violate a lot of agreements that they have and all that kind of stuff. What they will most likely do is just wait it out. It's like, okay, then we don't put the movie out now. We'll put it out later when we can make all of our money. Like, let's not forget, it's not like these movies are not like apples you've plucked from the tree, right? Because once you pluck an apple from the tree, there's a ticking clock. You've only got so much time to eat that apple before it starts to rot, right? Movies aren't like that. Movies are, we made the movie, we got it in the can. Quick, we've got to stream it or play it before it spoils. No, that's not how it works. They can sit that movie on a shelf as long as they want, and then when it's good for them to do it, they'll put it out in theater and make all their money. Look at a good example of that is Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods was a movie that sat on a shelf for years until they found the right time to release it. And in the meantime, it just sat there on a shelf. In a can. It was completely done, completely ready, sat on a shelf in a can for years. And then they put it out, and then it made all of its money. I mean, it wasn't a huge blockbuster, but it was never going to be a huge blockbuster, but it made every penny they would have made if they had released it earlier. So we got to remember, these movies are not perishable goods. They're not going to start to grow mold and stale and then become rotten and unusable unless we put it out in theaters right now. No, they can put the movies on the shelf and let them sit there for as long as they need to let them sit there, and then they can put them out in theaters and make all the money that they want. So there's that. All right. Fan of Peanuts writes, playing Last of Us again with the show now being announced for HBO, I decided to now try Survivor mode for the first time. This is quite a big challenge here. It feels cathartic and apropos. Listen, whenever I start up a game, I go whatever the most basic, easiest possible level is. Whatever the most basic, easiest possible level is. There are very few games that I've ever been able to go through the game and then get them up to its maximum difficulty and then really enjoy it at absolute maximum difficulty. StarCraft 2 was one of them. Unreal was one of them. Like, I can put that on like maximum difficulty and not have too much problem. But a lot of games I've played, I've never been able to go like to their absolute insane level difficulty and have a very good time playing it. But if you can, I've always admired people who do. You go do that, man, and have a good time. All right, RJ Technovine writes, Metro Manila is locked down for 30 days, no cinemas. Yeah, there are other countries doing stuff like that. And obviously the Philippines is a place close to my heart. But hopefully everything that these measures, I don't blame them for taking these measures. Hopefully these measures will help really keep things in check down there. Josh Bing writes, this whole virus thing reminds me of the infection crossover of Chicago PD, Fire, and Med they did in October. I rewatched it Thursday and remembered thinking when it first aired, it might be too much because something like that could never really happen. And now we are here. Yeah, I don't watch a ton of TV. One of the shows I do watch is Chicago PD. I actually don't watch Chicago Fire and I don't watch Chicago Med. And I know it was a big crossover event, but the only episode I saw of the crossover event was the Chicago PD one. But it is funny because you get things like that and you get things like Outbreak and Contagion. You think, that's make-believe. And now we're actually seeing it play out like on a global scale. And it's disconcerting to say the least, right? All of a sudden, reality, life starts to imitate art. Life starts to imitate art, and it's definitely there, Justin. It is kind of weird going back and seeing stuff like that again. You're absolutely right. All right. Henry Mertens writes, staying home for a while to be extra cautious, not a bad move. I'm a freelance artist, so I'll be finishing all my commissions in my hermit cave. And John, you mentioned drawing is a skill you wish you had. I recommend Mark Crilly's tutorials. He's a great illustrator. Here's the thing. Nobody understands this, okay? Nobody understands this. Let me make it very clear to all of you people who keep saying, John, you should learn. Let me make this clear to you. Listen up. I have no drawing skills. None. Not in the least. Like, I am horrible. You could put Picasso beside me to try to teach me how to draw something, and I couldn't do it. I am, without hyperbole, the worst. You could go and get a 4-year-old child who was born with 2 fingers and put that child in a drawing competition against me, and they will kick my ass. They will kick my ass. Because I suck. And I've always, listen, we all have things in life we're good at, and we all have things in life we're not good at. And I'm comfortable with that, and I'm fine with that. There are just a lot of things in life I'm not good at, and I accept that. That's fine. But if there was one thing in life that I wish I was really good at, that I don't currently have a good skill set in, if I could pick one thing, it would be the ability to draw, man. God, I've always wanted to have the ability to draw. And for those guys like you, Henri, who you have that skill, I sit in massive admiration. I sit in absolute massive admiration for people like you who do have that skill. But believe me, there's no hope for me. There's no hope. There is no illustrator on the planet who could teach me how to draw. I'm just that inept at it. I'm just that bad at it. But anyway, I'm glad you have it, and I'm totally jealous, dude. I'm totally jealous. All right, Tyler Yeats writes, I saw The Hunt. You were right about all the jokes being too on the nose. It was okay. It sucks that we won't be getting any new movies out for a while. Well, I mean, there are still going to be some new movies that come out. A lot of the higher profile ones aren't. Some of the smaller ones will. And by the way, some of the smaller ones may still want to come out to take advantage of the fact that the big ones aren't going to be there. And for those of us who are still going to the movies, maybe now we'll go check out one of these smaller films. So I think there will still be some new ones. Yeah, The Hunt, I was disappointed. The action and the goriness of The Hunt is very entertaining. But a lot of the humor of the movie that I was looking forward to was so on the nose and so over-explained, and it felt like they really hit us over the head with it. It just left me feeling meh, and which is too bad because Tyler, I was excited about that movie, dude. I was excited about that movie, and it just did not work for me. All right, Jose Miaz writes, Clone Force 99 and The Bad Batch are my favorite. What is Clone Force 99? Let me look this up here. Clone Force 99. There are there's nothing coming up for it. Let me look over here for it. What is Clone Force 99? I am looking everywhere for Clone Force 99. Like, the Bad Batch was, if I'm thinking of the right movie, I might not. That was the one with Jason Momoa, right? Oh, maybe I should go look it up. I think that's the one you're talking about. Is the one with Jason Momoa. Hold on a second. The Bad. I still can't find anything on Clone Force 99 though. Suki. Yeah, it's the one with Suki Waterhouse and Jason Momoa. But Clone Force 99. Hold on a second. Let me broaden my. Clone Force 99 is a Star Wars thing. You're talking. Clone Force, and you're talking even the Bad Batch thing. You're talking about the Star Wars thing. Clone Force 99, informally known as the Bad Batch, was a clone commander squad during the Clone Wars. Clone consisted of troopers. Okay, that's why it completely went over my head. That's because I'm thinking that the one with Jason Momoa. But what's Clone Force 99? I've never heard of it. That's why it wasn't coming up on IMDb. Guess the quote. Writes, I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you actually left them. That's The Office. That was Andy. I believe it was in the series finale. In the series finale of The Office, they got everybody back together again, and they're having a little one last party at the office. And Andy says, I wish there was a way to know you were in the good old days before you actually left them. I believe that's what it was from. And it's a tremendously great line. Might have been the best line from the Office season finale, other than Michael Scott saying, it's like watching your children grow up and marry each other. It's like watching your children grow up and marry. That might have been the best line from that, but that was a really good one too. All right. R. Lee writes, I've noticed many movie review channels have understandably grown worried about not having enough content, with movies being pulled and even TV production halting. You're different because you discuss the film industry as a whole, but are you concerned? Am I concerned? I don't know. Listen, here's one of the interesting things. Like, a lot of our first of all, there's always movie news going on. That's the thing. Like, even when everything's grinding to a halt, there is news to talk about. I am not a movie review channel. That's the thing. I'll do some movie reviews, but I'm not a movie review channel. And there is always news going on. There is always news. Even when the movies aren't coming out right now, there's always news going on. And I think you guys will notice when we get to either open mic or the live question part of the John Campea Show, very, very rarely are the topics that people bring up about the new movie that just opened this week, right? Unless like a new Star Wars movie came out or a new Avengers movie came out. Other than that, most of the time, the topics that get sent in during open mic or during the live question part of the John Campea Show, they're usually not about movies that just came out right now, right? It's usually more about bigger, wider movie or TV related topics. But I think I would be lying if I said I wasn't somewhat concerned. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit concerned. Sure I am, because you never know. Like right now it's fine. For a few weeks it'll be fine. But like if we go like 3 months with no new movies and no new TV shows and no news starts coming out. Like if we start to go months, well then, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I might have to start doing some exotic dancing for you guys. Now you are all praying the coronavirus ends. Yeah, if we get like 2.5 months into this, I don't know, dudes. I might have to start, have to doing some things here online to make some money. Send me $2. I'll show you my nipple. And everybody's screaming in horror now. Ah! There's a great disturbance of the force. If there's millions of voices cried out in terror and suddenly silenced. Yeah, so I'd be lying if I said I wasn't at least a little, but in the immediate, like for the next few weeks, I'm not that worried about it, because unlike some others who do a great job, but unlike some others who do a fabulous job at what they do, who their whole thing is just reviewing the new movies that come out, and they're fabulous at it, that's not really what my thing has been. I do review the new movies, but that's kind of not the underlying thing of what I do. We talk about stuff, and I think that's fine. But yeah, if it stretches into months instead of weeks, Yeah, it could long term have a very big effect on me. Maybe yes, maybe no. But, that's a first world problem. I mean, there are other people who have much bigger problems than I do. And there are people who are struggling with figuring out how are we going to survive? Because I've got a relative who has the coronavirus and we're worried that they're going to live. I'm just worried, in a few months, are there more movies to talk about? Perspective, right? Perspective. But again, like I said at the beginning of the show, that is the parameters of what we talk about here is how it affects movies and TVs. So yeah, it could affect me. It could long term, but I'm not really worried about it in the immediate. I'm really not worried about it in the immediate. So that's just me. All right, let's see here. Where are we at? Ali Hussein writes in, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you, Ali. I appreciate that. In the next John Campea show, are you going to do that solo, or are Aaron and Robert and Chris going to be your co-hosts like always? I'm asking that because Harloff is going to do SEN Live alone next week because of the corona pandemic." Well, here's the thing. And I thought Christian, I haven't talked to him since he did it, but I thought Christian did a really good little video he put out, explained the situation that I think, what Christian's going to do with Schmodown is kind of what Dana White is doing with the UFC. They're going to continue to have matches, but it's not going to be with live audiences. That makes sense. I am still going to do my show, and I'm still going to have Rob, and I'm still going to have Aaron, I'm still going to have Chris, because it's not 50 people in my house. It's 2 or 3 of us. It's limited, but three days out of the week, Robert is on my show, but I Skype him in, right? I Skype him in. So that's just one of the things that we do. So a lot of times that Rob's on the show, he's not actually in. Now on Fridays, Rob is physically in here. Rob sits right over there. Aaron sits over here. When it's No Pants Thursdays, Aaron sits over there and Chris sits over there. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Robert just comes in via Skype. So he actually is from his Robservatory off in Pasadena. I'm here in Burbank. I Skype him in. I'll give you guys a little bit of a insight here about what I do. So over here, you can see this laptop here. I have this laptop mounted up on a stand. What I will do is I use this laptop here. Here's a little bit of technical insight for you guys. I use this laptop here to use Skype, and I Skype in Robert on this laptop. I make Robert full screen on this laptop. Then what I do is I take an HDMI cable and I run it from the laptop into an HDMI capture card on my computer. So now my computer sees the video signal coming in from this laptop as if it's a camera. Just like I have this camera plugged into an HDMI capture on my computer, and I have this camera attached to an HDMI capture card on my computer. I have this laptop and its HDMI out connected to an HDMI capture on the computer, and it just sees it as another camera. So I switch between myself and Rob. Actually, I'll pull up Robert's camera right now. Here's Robert's camera right now. No signal. That's Robert's camera right now, is no signal the camera. So most of the days it's just me alone in the studio anyway, and I just Skype in Rob. But I do think I'm going to continue to do No Pants Thursdays. Again, because it's limited risk. It's only 1 or 2 people. It's not 40, 60, 100, 200 people. It's just a couple of people I know, and I trust them, and I know they're taking care of themselves and taking the right steps and blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to continue to do the show. But again, most of the time my show is me alone in the studio Skyping in somebody, being Rob. So that's the steps I'm taking. But I think I agree. I like what Christian's doing. I think he made a good case for what he's doing. And here's hoping it works out for everybody. All right. Next up, Daniel Hinosha writes, "So annoyed that this virus is ruining everything." No kidding. Hey, like I said on my video, where some people it's creating unimaginable hardship and suffering. And at the best case scenario, it's just a pain in the ass for everybody else. And I completely agree. Yusuf Alvi writes, "I was under the impression that Joker was going to be the start of a separate universe consisting of standalone movies, but Warner Brothers seems to only be interested in a sequel to Joker if that actually does happen. What direction do you think they'll go?" I mean, I don't really know. Here's the thing. They never dreamed that Joker would make $1 billion. I'm going to tell you that right now. I can tell you that for a fact because of some people I've talked to. Nobody at Warner Brothers ever dreamed that Joker movie was going to make $1 billion. They knew it could be successful. They knew that they could make some money on that movie. They never dreamed in a million years it would make $1 billion. Once your movie makes $1 billion, because remember, they never intended to make another one. They never intended to make another Joker. That was it. But once your movie makes $1 billion, it becomes hard not to consider doing another one, right? It becomes very, very hard and very, very difficult to not at the very least consider doing another one. You have to at least consider doing another one. And that's what they're doing. They have to do it. I believe what the plan was let's do this Joker movie as an Elseworlds kind of movie that's outside of the DCU. They don't exist in that same universe. And let's see if that works. Then we can consider doing others like that. The thing is, Joker goes on to make way more than they possibly imagined they ever could have with $1 billion. And now they're in this situation where it's a good problem to have. But now, instead of thinking what the next movie could be, they got to look at, let's do a sequel to Joker. Because it made $1 billion. And they can get back around to doing another one later if they want to. But it does seem, Yusuf, it does seem like that's where their attention has gone right now. But it's completely understandable. It's completely understandable, so I get it. All right. Yusuf also writes, I'm really excited for Khabib versus Tony. Me too, man. Me too. These two dudes are great. And Tony has a puncher's chance, but I will... If they fight 100 times, Khabib beats Tony 99 times out of 100. But you never know when that one time might be, so he's got a chance. I have Khabib winning this, but man, does he have to be careful. He has to watch out for those Darce chokes. Here's the thing. Khabib is so far... Tony's advantage is the same advantage that Conor McGregor had. Conor McGregor had the advantage in striking. Tony's advantage and his chances involve being up on the feet. Khabib is just too good on the ground. And so, while I do believe Tony has a chance to win this fight, it will not be by Darce choke. It won't be by submission. I'll tell you that. It won't be by submission. Now watch, he beats him by submission. But I'm telling you, he is not going to beat Khabib by submission. If he has any chance of beating Khabib, it'll be by knockout. It'll be by knockout. So we'll see. But if he can pin him like the master he is and inflict a ton of damage, Khabib will walk away victorious. Yeah, and that's what I believe will happen. I believe Khabib will be on the feet. He'll take some shots from Tony, but eventually Khabib will do this. And once Khabib does that to you, you're done. He's going to drag you into deep water, and he's going to pound you and pound you and pound you until you got nothing left. And that's just what happens. And that's what I expect will happen in this fight as well. But do not count out as an impossibility Tony Ferguson, because this dude's an animal. He's an absolute animal. Jeffrey Taylor writes, we /COVID-19, I don't understand why the studios and theaters aren't getting together and trying to figure out ways to release via internet for $40. Again, because it's financial suicide. It's financial suicide for the studios. It's financial suicide for the theaters. Because again, what will happen en masse is the exact same thing that happens when I get the UFC fights. The reason all my friends just don't order it themselves at home is because it's like 40, 50, 60 bucks. So one of us orders it, and then we all come over and watch it. And I'm telling you right now, if No Time to Die was coming out for $40, my place would be packed tomorrow night. I would have 20 people come over. We'd all come over, hang out, order some food, and we watch it for $40. And there's great. That $40 represents 2 ticket sales, but instead now 20 people have had it. It would be financial suicide. They know this. Listen, if the studios thought for 1 second, if they did their studies, and you know that they had because they're all about money, if they thought for 1 second they could do that and make their money, they would do it. The reason they haven't done it is because they know they're going to take it's financial suicide if they do. They know it is. They know that if they just keep the movie on the shelf, it's not an apple, it's not going to go bad, it's not going to go rotten. They'll just keep the movie on the shelf until, the crisis is behind us. Then they put it out in theaters and make all their money. And they know that. There's no real downside. The only downside for them right now is they've lost money on the marketing. And the theaters are getting pounded. I mean, the theaters are it's going to be catastrophic for the theaters, but from the studio's point of view, there's not a ton of harm. It's not that there's no harm, but there's not a ton of harm in just having the movie sit on the shelf for a little while. There is some financial drawback to doing that, but it's a much smaller financial drawback than, say, putting it on streaming, making 1/4 of the money you would have made on it if you just waited till it was in theaters. It's just not something that works. Believe me, listen, the studios are greedy. They're greedy. And if they thought for 1 second, if they had data that suggested to them by just putting it on streaming for $40, if they had any data that said that they would come close to making the amount of money they would than if they just waited to putting out in theaters, they're greedy. They would do it. They would do it like that because they're greedy. Because it's a business. All business is greedy. If they thought it would work, they would do it, but they know it won't work. They know they'll take a bath on it financially if they did. So they'll just be patient. They'll wait, and then they'll put it out. Unless some other new paradigm comes up that changes that. But while this is the paradigm, it's going to be hard to change that. All right. Santez Henderson writes, I've been listening to Hans Zimmer a lot lately. Me too, dude, actually. God, I love his music. His score for The Last Samurai is great. I feel at peace when I hear it. It's funny you mentioned that, Santez, because I know it wasn't you, but somebody else actually wrote in, I think it was like a week or two ago, specifically to talk about the music from The Last Samurai. Which is hilarious that you brought that up now. Listen, I've told everybody, I get into the shower, and at least 1 or 2 days a week when I get in the shower, I turn to my Google Home, because I've got one in the bathroom. I got to be careful not to say it out loud, because I got one right here too, and I go, hey, Google, play Hans Zimmer, What Are You Going to Do When You're Not Saving the World, which is his score from Man of Steel. And then it plays it, and then it'll play through the other Man of Steel stuff, and then some other Hans Zimmer stuff as well. And I just get in the shower, and I listen to his music while he's doing it.
I'm not sure how to help.
He still heard me. It still heard me. I whispered it, and the damn thing still heard me. Anyway, so yeah, man, absolutely. All right, Jay Meister writes, who's your favorite movie character and why? Darth Vader, because he's Darth Vader. Stubble McShave writes, if the movie theaters will stay open at 50% capacity and the studios pulling their big movies, do you think the indie movies that are playing will bank more bucks than what they would have done normally, or will people stay home? That's the question. Right, I actually brought that up a little bit earlier, Stubble, that's kind of the question that is there for everybody right now. It's like, will the smaller movies that continue to come out benefit from the lack of the bigger movies? Or is any of that benefit going to be cut off at the knees because a lot of people aren't going to the movie theaters at all? And I don't know the answer to that. I think there's a possibility these smaller films could take advantage of the fact that the big ones aren't coming out. But I could also see it going completely the other way where, listen, nobody's going to the movies and you getting 50% of nothing is still nothing, right? Getting 50% of nothing is still nothing. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to be, here's the thing. When tomorrow's box office report comes out, I'm not going to be surprised if Bloodshot exceeds its projection of like $10 to $15 million and makes like 20 million. I won't be surprised. But I also won't be surprised if it makes way under its projections and makes like 6. That's where I'm at right now. I really don't know. I'm not going to be surprised if it benefits. I'm not going to be surprised if it suffers as a result of it. So I'm kind of just like you. I'm just kind of waiting to see how this is going to turn out. And I guarantee you a lot of smaller filmmakers who have smaller films scheduled to come out in the next few weeks are watching this weekend very closely. Because if Bloodshot or The Hunt can make more money than what they were thinking they were going to make, with the news coming out that all the big movies we're all waiting for aren't going to be coming out for a while, then it's going to embolden those distributors of the smaller movies to get their movies out. So, or it could go the other way. So I don't know. We're kind of in a wait and see pattern right now. They're kind of in a wait and see pattern. All right. James Smith writes, no new movies until April 10th if Trolls doesn't move. I have it on good authority, aka I work for the company, that at least one chain is planning to close theaters for at least 2 weeks very soon. Again, I'm not going to be surprised. Like I did a video the other day about, the movie theaters reducing to 50% capacity, and I think that's a good move. And listen, World War II didn't make movie theaters close. 9/11 didn't make movie theaters close. But I'm not going to be surprised if in the coming days and weeks we do hear that Regal, AMC do decide to shut down. I won't be surprised if they stay open, but I'm not going to be surprised if they shut down. So It's going to be interesting to see how this all kind of starts to transpire. All right, KW Garrett writes, I can't wait for the new Mutants sequel where Maisie Williams' character applies for Medicare. Stay safe. I'm stuck teleworking for the next 2 weeks, so I'm happy your show is one of the few things not canceled by the virus. Nope. The show still goes on. And maybe we'll even do some extra and some more live streaming for a while, as a lot of people, including my wife. My wife is going to be working from home for the next 2 weeks. For those of you who missed it earlier, I was mentioning that Hasbro has decided that they want their employees all working from home. So for the next 2 weeks. So Anne's going to be home for the next 2 weeks. So you're going to be telecommuting. A lot of people are going to be home. So I think we'll probably do a little bit more live streaming than normal, just so we all have somewhere to hang out together, I guess. So stay safe, KW. I appreciate that. All right. Richard Karate writes, best Jeff Bridges acting performance. Well, I mean, it's hard. Was it Crazy Heart? Is that the one he won his Academy Award for? Obviously you go to the one where he won his Academy Award for. But I'll tell you what, and he's got a lot of greater performances when he was younger as well. I don't think people talk enough about his performance in True Grit. I thought his performance in True Grit, somebody might bring up one that might maybe change my mind, but I honestly, I remember thinking at the time, and I still think, even though he won an Academy Award for another movie, I think his performance in True Grit might have been his best performance. I just loved him in that. All right, Alex Detman writes, John, in this time of madness, I want to thank you for being our Andy Dufresne, using your shows, that's a Shawshank Redemption reference, by the way, for being our Andy Dufresne, using your shows as the beautiful music he plays for the prisoners, being us in this metaphor to feel freedom for only a few brief moments. Oh, dude, that's beautiful. That is beautifully and well said. And I'm thank you so much for saying that. Listen, we got a whole lot of crap going on. And this is the beauty. I've always said, Alex, the beauty of the movies and the beauty of the movie fan community is that when we get to engage in the movie or in discussions and talks and hanging out with our fellow film fan community members, we just for a while get an oasis away from the crap going on in our lives, whether it's a global scale crap or just personal crap. And not only do we get a momentary reprieve from all that, when the movies are done or when our discussions are done, we go back to the real world and the crap is still there, but I feel like we're able to deal with it a little bit better because our minds are a little bit more refreshed. We feel a little bit more positive and we're just able to tackle it from a different way, and that's one of the reasons why I've always loved the movies and the movie fan community and stuff like that, is that it does give us that. It's a refreshing oasis, I think. And I know it's true for me as well. Like getting to come on here and just hang out and talk to my fellow movie fan community members like you guys, I just find it just makes the world a better place for me. And yes, because when this show is done and after I say bye-bye, all my personal problems in life and all the global problems in life are still there, but they seem a little bit less daunting to me than they did before. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's stupid or if that makes sense, but I've always found that to be true to me. And one of the reasons why I love doing this show and why I love the movies and why I love television and stuff like that, it's just I come back, the crap is still there, but suddenly the crap seems just a little bit less daunting. And that's always a good thing. So thank you so much. And that's a beautiful metaphor you used, Alex. Thank you so much. I appreciate that deeply, man. All right. Santez Henderson writes, did you ever beat Jedi Fallen Order? No, I did not. Thoughts on the story? I love how it dived into struggles of being a Jedi. Cal is worthy of his own movie. I'm not so sure about that, but I thought, listen, before I went back in to play it, I watched the full theatrical cut, if you will, of all the story packed into one video. And I watched that and it's great. It's really, really good. I don't know that you can make a movie around Cal, to be honest with you, but I enjoyed watching the cutscene movie of it very, very much. I enjoyed playing the game. It is really hard. It is a hard game. And even on the more modest levels, the way I played it, it's a difficult game. It really is. But at any rate, it's a great story. And I enjoyed it very much. So I've watched the whole thing through, even though I never did personally beat the game, I got to admit. All right. Ben Rayner writes, Rise of Skywalker just released on digital a few days early. Bought it already. Was it early? December, January, February, March. No, it's 3 months after its release. This is when it would normally come out. Was this period? But anyway, I have not bought it. I will not be buying it. It is the one Star Wars movie that I actually, out of the new Disney batch, that I don't like. And that's fine. But a lot of other people do. And that's awesome. I'm not going to yuck on your yum. If you like that movie, that's great. I'm glad you got that enjoyment out of it. It didn't work for me, and that's okay. But it is what it is. But I'm glad you're able to get that, especially if you're going to be like a lot of other people, Ben, and you got to be stuck at home for a while. All right, Doug Tranovan writes, just rewatched Back to the Future, so goo. I'm going to guess that you meant to say so good. And it's brilliant, man. It's one of the few time travel movies that I actually enjoy. Maiko Swayan writes, hi, John. Manila is now on lockdown. Yes, somebody was writing that in a little bit earlier. Due to the virus, stay safe and wash your hands from the filthy. Yep, we do a lot of hand washing around here. We do an awful lot of hand washing around here. By the way, can I tell you guys a trick? It's just a little thing. And I can't believe I still see, like, when I go into like bathrooms at big events and I see dudes washing their hands, I still see people washing their hands wrong. Somebody told me this tip when I was a teenager. It's a doctor. When you wash your hands, don't just do this. I mean, yeah, you can do that. And you can do the things that people always do, right? What somebody told me and showed me a while ago is you cup your hands like this and do this and do this. And do everything else too, but you make sure you cup your hands like that, put them together, and you do that, and then scrub in between your fingers like that. Do that. Very, very effective. It's very, very good. I was told that's the right way to do it, and I'm still surprised I don't see more people doing the surgeon kind of scrub thing. Do the surgeon kind of scrub thing. And everybody in Manila, all the people who watch the show here, we have family in Manila. Yeah, obviously, my wife is Filipino. We have family there. Everybody, stay safe, stay good, and just hang out in your place and have a good time watching the John Campea Show, among other things. All right, Magic K writes, at this point, is possible New Mutants to get even with this cost they put on the movie? Is it possible for them to break even? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they can still break even and make money on this movie. Absolutely, they can. Absolutely. The only question is, will enough people go watch it when they put it out? But yeah, it is absolutely 100% feasible that they can break even and even make money. It's feasible that they don't, but it's totally feasible that they do. Absolutely. All right. If they ever break the curse and actually hit the theaters, because I'm starting to have my doubts. All right. Jim Riley writes, I once met Warwick Davis. Oh, that's so cool. He's very cool. I once met Warwick Davis at Epcot and knew him from one of my favorite shows, Life's Too Short. What's your thoughts on the show? I only ever saw like one episode. And it was the episode with Liam Neeson. And that's hilarious. It's the only episode I ever saw. But I like Warwick Davis very much, but that's the only episode I ever watched. So I can't really, all I know is that I did love the episode. So if I love the episode so much, why didn't I watch more of it? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you, as a matter of fact. I don't have a good answer. It's the same reason why I watched the first season of Bosch on Amazon Prime, and I loved it, and I never watched any of the other seasons. I have no good explanation why. Let's see here. Stubble McShave writes, check out Stuckman's review of Veronica, so funny. I've never even heard of the movie, but Chris is pretty good at what he does, so I might have to do that. All right, Christian's Reviews writes, if there's no movie news, then breakdance for us. Well, there's always news. See, that's the thing. There's always news. You will never, ever see me breakdancing ever again. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen, Christian. It's never going to happen. All right. Last few questions. We've already gone over 2 hours today. Next one comes to us from Jim Sandelin, who writes, John, I'm looking forward to Westworld this weekend and wanted to know your thoughts on Marshawn Lynch being in this season. I didn't know Marshawn Lynch was in this season. It's looking like he may have a significant room based on the trailers. You probably meant significant role. I doubt it's a significant role. I'm guessing if Marshawn Lynch, of course, who's an NFL, running back. If Marshawn Lynch is in it, I doubt they're going to have him do some very heavy. I doubt he's going to have anything that requires a lot of actual acting skill. If he only has a few lines and he just has to have a physical presence, that's fine. But I doubt we're going to see him. I mean, I don't know. I didn't even know he was in this season. But I doubt that we're going to see him have a lot of heavy acting. I doubt we're going to see have a lot of heavy acting. But hey, man, beast mode, dude. I'm a fan of Marshawn Lynch. beast mode. All right, Jetfire97 writes, Fast 9 delayed by Corona, but Dom loves Corona. I know what you're saying. Very good. All right, J Master writes, hey, John. Clone Force 99 is a group of clones. Yeah, I figured that out. It's a group of clones called the Bad Batch. They appeared in episode 1 of the final season on Disney Plus. Also, what are your thoughts on the series finale so far? I'm not watching it. I'm not a fan of Clone Wars. So I haven't, even though I am I mean, obviously everything about my life revolves around Star Wars. I've never been a Clone Wars fan. I tried to be. I'm just not a fan of Clone Wars. And so when the new show was coming out, the new season, the final season as they're calling it, I just wasn't interested. So I honestly haven't watched it. So I'm not saying that this new season isn't good. I'm not saying it isn't good. I haven't watched it because I've watched all the other Clone Wars stuff and I just never got into it. That's all. So, but if you like it and watch it, great. I'm glad. I mean, I was very thrilled because I have a lot of friends who love Clone Wars. And so I was thrilled when I heard they were going to do another season because I know a lot of my friends love it and you guys get to get some more joy out of it. That's great, but it's not for me. That's the thing. It just isn't for me. All right. James Welsh writes, with Frozen 2 now being the 10th highest grossing film of all time, surely they will do a trilogy now, right? I don't see how they don't. Like, I saw Frozen 2. And I thought, this feels like it's the last one. I don't think they're going to do another one. But then it made $1 billion, and apparently it cracked the top 10 on the highest grossing films of all time. Oh yeah, once it cracked $1 billion, actually once it crossed like 800 million, I went, yeah, I guess they are going to do another one. I mean, you absolutely got to. And then final question of the day comes to us from Christian's Reviews, who writes, dance Pisces, dance. No dancing from Pisces. Pisces has been retired. The persona of Pisces has officially been retired, my friends. He is gone. But anyway, guys, listen, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you guys so much for being here and making it a part of your day, especially with all the crap going on in the world. It's always great that we can all get together like this, talk about our favorite things in the world, just have a little bit of fun. So thank you, everybody, for being here. And a special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions, because not only did you give us the great fun things to talk about, you also supported this channel while you were doing it. And all of us here on the channel, thank you very much for your support, guys. Hey, listen, I'm not 100% sure we're going to have an open mic tomorrow, although I think we are. I know Anne, we're going to go out of town here a little bit later to go see her mom, just to check in on her mom. It's also Anne's dad, my father-in-law, passed away just a couple years ago. And today is his birthday. So we get together with the family. So we're going to go out, hang out with family and stuff like that. So, but I think I'll be back in time to do an open mic tomorrow. I think so, but I'm not 100% positive. Keep your eyes open. I'll let you guys know if there is one happening. But other than that, guys, that will do it for me. Thank you so much for being here, my friends. Stay safe, stay indoors, wash your hands, all the good things, and let's get this BS behind us as quickly as we can. So maybe tomorrow, but regardless, until next time, my friends, bye-bye.